Hey everybody, this is Brian.
And this is Josh.
Welcome to the podcast for Curiosity Continuum.
Curiosity Continuum is an industry-innovating, non-traditional company passionate about growing wisdom in the next generation.
We are the essential bridge between the analog and digital worlds by building collaborative communities that unleash the power of adaptive expertise and innovation needed to thrive in the 21st century.
We combine and mix essential elements needed to empower people to succeed in new ways, not possible outside of a creative, thoughtful, diverse community of fellow curious people.
Follow us on your favorite podcast app to receive notifications of new content. If you like what you hear and want to dive deeper, visit us at curiositycontinuum.com. Thanks for tuning in. Let's start the conversation.
What were we doing again? No, wasn't it the power of distraction?
Power of distraction, like the importance of distraction.
The importance of distraction. It's the same thing, the power of it, because it's powerful and it's important. So
Yeah.
let's talk about it.
Well, so many times we really kick the point hard. You have to focus. Like, don't let something pull your focus, right?
Right.
And we 100% are proponents of you have to focus to get anything done.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
So we're not advocating like continuous distraction. That's called ADHD, and we would recommend you talk to a professional about what that may mean in your life. But the distractions that you don't expect, and I don't mean like disruptions where like you're in your moment and all of a sudden like say, "Hey, did you hear the blah?" You know, some random thing.
Right. We're talking about things that pull you away from what you're doing.
So
for like a break, or to pull you in another direction is what I'm asking.
let me give a great example
Okay.
of this. Once upon a time, there was this mystical place called Blockbuster Video.
Oh yes, Blockbuster.
And Blockbuster had physical media where you could, for a price, carry it to your home for a while, and then you bring it back.
Right.
This is how the system worked.
Yeah, the system worked, and they had. I remember a little nostalgia trip when they used to have their guaranteed in stock movies.
Oh, yeah.
So it was like a new release. It was always like the biggest movie of the year. And it was like guaranteed in stock. And it was like, how could they do that? And you go there and they have like 500 copies of this movie there.
You definitely got it in stock.
Yeah.
Now, let's play on that, because sometimes I was the guy, I was like, do you have this in stock? And they're like, no. Now,
No.
I'll go, granted, it wasn't necessarily the Blockbuster, but it was like a Blockbuster equivalent of your hometown.
Right.
Ours was Video Plus.
Yeah. And then the AV Club.
AV Room.
AV
and then
Room.
There was
and
another
then
one.
There was a Mr. Movies too.
Oh, yeah.
Later.
Yep.
Later.
Mr. Movies.
Yeah.
So if you think about your hometown, if you're of any vintage, like these are the places you go get VHS tapes or
Right.
later on even DVDs.
DVDs,
But
yep.
Really, it was like the age of VHS. Now, you went in there for specific reasons. Like they also, what they did is they rented video games, right? So you kind of
and video game consoles.
it was pretty cool.
Yeah.
To like, carry it away. Just as a side note, that's why I never beat Castlevania 2 growing up, is I never owned it long enough, and when I rented it, it didn't make sense to me.
Right.
Because it's something you have to live with for a long time.
Right.
And I was really happy when I beat it in my adult life, because I'm like, ooh.
And they had like a password system.
Yep.
So like you would write the password down, and then like the next time you got it, you type it in, it was wrong. And they weren't like passwords like, password. It was password like a 42 character passwords with upper, lowercase, symbols, everything. It was nuts.
It was crazy. But it worked.
Yeah.
Worked really well.
If you could type it in right.
Considering your track record of spelling, I can understand where that would be a challenge for you. Sorry, reel it back here now. So you walk into this video store.
Right.
And you kind of have the idea of the movie you might want to see. It wasn't like the wide world it is today where everything is everything. But sometimes when like the thing you wanted to see wasn't there, it's like, well, I'm already here.
Right. And you already spent the time to go there and the gas. And we were young kids. We didn't have a lot of disposable income.
It's like, well, let's find something.
Let's find
to
something.
watch.
I mean, you're in a movie store with like thousands of movies. You should be able to find something.
And so here's the thing that happened is in the analog experience of a video store like that, you had to walk past shelves. Now, if it was organized properly, you'd see children's, westerns, sci-fi, horror, whatever it might be. Now, you might not have any interest in like some of these genres, but you had to walk past them to get to where you thought you wanted to go.
Right. And you would, and by in that doing that, you would look at the tapes, the covers, and they would be all trying to get your attention. So sometimes you'd see like a movie and be like, oh, that's interesting. And you'd pick it up, look at it. The first thing I always did was look if it was like rated R or not. Because then I'm like, oh yeah, I don't know if I can get away with this one or not. But I was always, and I rented many movies just on how they looked. And I bought many video games on just how the cover looked of a game. Because I had no idea.
See, that's so interesting to me because I did the same thing.
Yeah. Everyone did.
And I would read like the little
Blurb on the back. Yeah.
and like a lot of log lines in television or movies, it's like, in a world where this happens, one hero emerges.
Yeah, yeah.
And it has to be interesting enough for you to pick it up. I can't tell the whole story, though. That's not the point of that little thing. And, I honestly felt more intrigued about a video store because I didn't know. I couldn't read all these reviews about it. I couldn't.
Right. You took a leap of faith at some point to see if it was going to be good or not.
Well, some of it was self-selecting because my mom wouldn't let me rent R-rated movies.
Right.
So, but those distractions are something I might need to come back to that. Now, when you go into that video store, let's say it's once a week, it's not like the stock changed over that much.
No.
Right? Once like the guaranteed in stock videos kind of ran their hot course, they kind of like faded back a little bit, and kind of like you might have had more copies than most, but there's always a new release coming out, and that's kind of now like the guaranteed in stock kind of thing. But I would go. There was movies that I picked up because I had no idea like what to expect about them. Now, one of the movies I think I picked up years ago was Short Circuit.
Oh, sure.
Which I love that movie.
Great movie. Yeah.
And Short Circuit 2, I loved even more. I think the Short Circuit
I think it's
1.
better. Yeah.
But would I have ever picked that up? I mean, not necessarily. No. Like,
No.
It wasn't even where my mom directed me in the video store to go.
It's kind of like equated today to like on streaming platforms when you're looking through and you just kind of like select a movie. I've done that. Oh, Netflix recommends this for me. I'm like, oh, okay, I'll just try it. It's barrier entry is a lot lower, so you can break up with it much quicker. You're just like, oh, this isn't good. Shut it off. But back then, that was kind of a leap of faith, too. Like, we were kind of like, oh, this looks like a good distraction. Let's just try it.
But, the other part of that you don't see in Netflix necessarily, when we passed by, like, VHS tapes, right? Like, you'd get, like, the actual tape in, like, this plastic container behind the counter after you rented it.
Right, exactly. You actually had it.
But there was, like, the box. And usually they'd shove, like, a styrofoam block up in it to kind of keep the shape of the thing.
Right.
But I would look at it because, like, is this thing ever picked up? Like, the movies that were good, they had wear marks, like, on the outside. You could kind of tell, like, people have picked this thing up, but it's been moved around a little bit.
Yeah. I mean, I didn't really ever pay attention to that kind of stuff. I was just like, does this look good? I was always going right for the sci-fi. And, like, I would pick a sci-fi movie that was, like, weird. Or it was like the biggest sci-fi at the time, or was out. Because sci-fi movies there weren't really that many of them back in the day. Like, they weren't as big of a genre as they are now.
It definitely became more in vogue, I think, as more nerds kind of took power in like everyday
and
life.
especially like superhero movies really weren't a thing until Spider-Man like really broke the mold of what made a good superhero movie.
That's fair. Yep.
And so then everybody started copying it. And then we got Marvel, then we got this like cinematic universe, which is like kind of epic, and it's like almost too much now.
It's almost too epic.
Yeah. So I think they're going to rectify some of that, but it is just very interesting the arc that everything's went.
I think the thing that is here is that the distraction is not the point, but the distraction is like if you're open to the distraction,
right?
I mean, look, if you're doing brain surgery on somebody, please don't watch cat videos while you're doing the brain surgery. Like, stay focused on that. So please don't take like mission critical things like as, oh, look, butterfly or squirrel. No.
But I think it's almost the exercise of the distraction. It's not the distraction itself that's important. It's the exercise of getting to the distraction to kind of like reset yourself a little bit, kind of like pull your way a little bit.
It's like, are you paying attention?
Right.
Like to the world around you. And Josh said this on another episode. He talked about really like being present in a shared experience. Now, oftentimes there's so many escape portals where you can just escape into your phone or escape somewhere else. It's hard to be there, right? And so Like I know if I walk my dog and I don't take my phone with me, right? Because sometimes I have to because it's dark and I got to go find something that is laid out in the in the grass somewhere. But with walking her, like I'm just kind of like listening to the bugs.
It's almost strange now because we're so used to the distractions of what's really around us. We're used to tuning them out.
And it's almost there's such great discovery because I remember like I walked her recently, and I kind of looked down the way in like this common grassy area, and I looked and go, that looks like a piece of an art or something like that. And I still haven't, honestly, I just haven't gone to explore it yet. I never noticed that until I actually stopped to like just like
Put the phone away.
and like smell the roses. Really,
Yeah.
I mean, and now this emerged recently after a storm, so I know it hasn't been there for a long time. But that was a distraction. Like it wasn't like the main point. Like I'm going to go out to the common grassy area, and I'm going to randomly look at a piece of art out of the corner of my eye. Like that's not what happens. But some of the greatest stories and discoveries of somebody's life comes from those distractions once you kind of learn to pay attention to them. And we almost have to teach ourselves to not be constantly distracted by things that are taking us out of the moment. It's like the distractions are more meaningful when you're in a moment and you catch something catches your eye.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I also do feel like really like feel about this is that the moments that we have that are like not in technology and stuff are seem to be less and less as we get older. It's almost like we almost sound like boomers in a way because we're like, you don't know how it used to be. But no, but like if we would have lost like our phone, you know, if like my phone stopped working at my house for like 3 or 4 days, it wouldn't be a big problem when I was a kid. It would have sucked, but it wasn't that big of a deal because we were used to just doing stuff. But if I lost my phone for 3 or 4 days now, I think I would almost become a cripple because this is a true story. One time I was going to work. I was driving down the road and I was like 10 minutes away from home. And I was like, oh, where's my phone? Because I usually listen to podcasts or something. Phone wasn't on me. I left it at home. I turned around, drove back, got the phone, and went. Like the next week, I forgot my wallet. I was like the same distance away. I just kept going. I didn't need it. My wallet
Right?
was in my phone. See, we become so dependent on that. It's almost like that's the distraction. It's taking us away from actually things that actually matter on our level of like everyday living.
So let's flip the script a little bit. So now instead of being in the moment and you find the distraction comes across your way, it's like we live distracted and we have to find focus.
Right.
And so this is really like, are you distracted? It's almost like, are you distracted enough now to focus on something that really matters to you?
Yeah, and like the way I always describe it to people is we haven't been this way very long. Like this is a new thing for us to be this like all these notifications on this device, everything, people always interconnected with social media. This is new. The way we used to do it was like how we did for hundreds and hundreds of years before that in different varying, you know, it was like your community. It was like you didn't have relationships with people that were thousands of miles away from you. And it's both good and bad. And you have to kind of like weigh that, I think.
I want to leave this thought because I've never used a dating app in like the current sense.
No, I haven't either.
So
That's how old we are.
we've just been married that long.
Yeah.
Not to each other, folks, just so you know. When I talk to people who are using dating apps, they said it's kind of like weird. It's a little bit, disillusioning and
And I have friends that use that too. And like, I'll just say this is that now the new big thing, I guess, is like they use like AI to like make themselves look totally different than what they actually look like.
oh, folks, that's going to be another episode.
That's going to be a whole problem.
But you're looking for somebody who you think you might be
You're
interested
looking for
in.
an impossible person.
And really, like, how did you meet this person? Oh, I met them. It's like, you call it coincidence, you can call it whatever, but God doesn't play dice on this stuff. But were you like you were probably in some other mode, doing some other thing, and then like you met somebody.
Right, that's how I was.
Well,
yeah.
did you expect it, or was
Oh,
she
no.
the distraction?
Yeah. So like with me, I totally had like given up for a while because I was like, I'm just not going to date people and I'm not going to go out. I'm not going to do anything. And then I met my wife. That's how it was. And it was like, oh, okay, cool. And she was a distraction, the good one. I was like, oh, okay, cool. And we've been married ever since. I mean, we got married like a year after that, and we've been married ever since.
So I think we put a comma here by saying like sometimes the distractions are the best things you can have in your life if you live in a present moment focused.
Right. Let's do it. Let's put a comma.
Till next time, this is Brian.
And this is Josh.
For Curiosity Continuum.